Hello, I'm Ollie, and this is Criminally, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, category romance, men's adventure, and one of the best thrillers ever written. It's my weekly wrap-up. So, hello everyone, happy Saturday. Hope you all have nice weekends ahead of you. Hope you're not having to work. I've got a nice kind of fairly chilled weekend planned with a bit of a kind of day trip out and things like that. So quite looking forward to it and hoping to get some reading done as well. So I've got 4 books to talk to you about in my weekly wrap up today. Of varying quality, it would be fair to say. So one that I think is truly excellent, one that I thought was truly awful, and a couple that are kind of in between. So let's start with the truly awful one. And this was really disappointing because I was really looking forward to reading this. So the book is Able Team Book 8, Army of Devils by Dick Stivers. Dick Stivers being a house name, the actual name of the author of this was G.H. Frost. So this is a book I talked about recently in a book haul video and in my 100 book challenge wrap up video. So this is the book I bought when I finished my 100 book challenge because I'd remembered it during that challenge and remembered it being really crazy and over the top and a lot of fun. And it is really crazy and over the top, but it's not a lot of fun. So the concept is that there's this new drug on the streets of Los Angeles that makes the people who take it, out of their minds and violent, but also impervious to pain. So what you end up with is a situation where there's like an army of drug-crazed lunatics going after the heroes, but they are so driven by the drug and so impervious to pain that you can blow their limbs off and they just keep coming at you. So it's kind of got like a zombie movie vibe to it. And there are elements of this there are elements of that in this book. But they were far, far fewer than I remembered. I remember that being most of the book. But actually, most of the book is really dodgy conservative politics about different minority groups conspiring together to attack white America, basically. So it was really genuinely uncomfortable reading, and I really didn't enjoy it at all, which is a shame. Not least because, as I say, I remembered it really, really fondly, but also because I bought it in a job lot with five other Able Team books. So I'll see what I make of those ones at some point. You always get a bit of kind of slightly right-wing politics in men's adventure books. I can normally stomach it, but in this one I couldn't. After that then, I read what I think is one of the best thrillers ever. So again, this was a reread. Again, I read this when it first came out in the 90s and remembered it really, really fondly. Hadn't read it since then. And did a buddy read of it this week with Crystal from the Channel 5 Artsy. The book is A Simple Plan by Scott Smith. And this is just such a good book. It is insanely good. And it's such a shame that Scott Smith has moved away from writing novels. So he only published this and one other novel, The Ruins. He now works in the film industry and writes screenplays and executive produces stuff and that kind of thing, I think. This was just phenomenal. And for a debut book, it's just outstandingly good. So I am going to do a review of it. But essentially the concept is these 3 guys, I can't even remember what state it's in, but kind of out in a fairly rural part of America, during the winter, discover a plane that's crashed, and in that plane is basically a bag of money, like $4 million, and they decide to keep the money, but to kind of not spend it or anything, keep it hidden for a while, just to make sure everything's okay and that they can definitely keep it, that there aren't people looking for this money. And the book just then escalates from that one decision. The book escalates and they make decision after decision that go just increasingly wrong. The book just is like a freight train of bad decisions and bad consequences. And it's just brilliant. It's really, really, really good. I can't recommend it enough. But yeah, I will be doing a review of it, which should go up, I think, this coming Thursday. So look out for that if that sounds interesting to you. Okay, after that, something completely different. So I read for the Retro Romance Readathon that's being hosted by Sarah from the Bookish Knitter and Storm from Storm Reads. I read Designed to Annoy by Elizabeth Oldfield from the Euromance series. So of a similar vintage to A Simple Plan, kind of early to mid-90s. A very silly but enjoyable romance about a British woman who travels to Germany with a baby. The baby is not her baby, so the baby belonged to or is the child of a woman who was living in a rented room in the house that the heroine owns, and then just skipped out one night and left the baby behind. And she's trying to track down the father of the baby and travels to Germany because that's where she believes the father is, and meets this guy. I won't tell you his connection to the baby, but meets this guy and ends up falling in love with him. And it was a fun, enjoyable romance. It's very silly at times, slightly spicy at times. Has a happy ending naturally, but yeah, just a sweet, fun romance. So nothing special, but I did quite enjoy it. After that, then, so my final book of the week, another buddy read. So this was the Blackstone Chronicles by John Saul, which I buddy read with one of my patrons, Thessaly. So I'm going to flash up the original covers for this as I talk through. Because I think they're more representative of the book than the terrible, terrible cover on the modern Kindle omnibus edition that I read. So the Blackstone Chronicles is a serial novel, like The Green Mile by Stephen King, that was published in the late 90s, so just after, like a year or two after The Green Mile. So I strongly suspect that John Saul's publisher said to him, hey, this Stephen King guy has written this serial novel and people really like it, you should do one too. And John Saul, in his introduction to the book and his afterword to the book, talks about Stephen King, talks about The Green Mile. He implies that The Green Mile was the first time anyone had written a serial novel since the Victorian times, which is not true, because clearly Michael McDowell's Blackwater, which came out in the 80s, is a serial novel, and indeed I'm pretty sure in the introduction to The Green Mile, Stephen King says that he was influenced by or inspired by Blackwater. But anyway, that's by the by. So it's a serial novel in 6 parts about this town where there's like an abandoned asylum on the edges of the town, and these cursed objects from within the asylum have kind of made their way into the town, and each of the first 5 parts of the book is effectively like a short story about one of these cursed objects and its impact on an individual in the town. So enjoyable, twisted little horror stories, basically. And then there's an overarching story as well, which comes to a conclusion in part 6. So there's this mysterious character like living in the abandoned asylum and so on. So it was really fun. It's very, very cheesy. It's the first time I'd read John Saul, so one of those authors that I've been aware of for decades but never actually read. I definitely want to read more books by him after this, because it was just fun. It was cheesy, it was over the top, it was melodramatic, it used a lot of cliches, but I really, really genuinely enjoyed it. And he does have a way of describing things that even when what he's describing is something, kind of quite cliched and cheesy that you've read before, it's actually still effective. There's a scene, particularly in the final part of this book, which was really horrific, really effective. So I do think he's a good writer, but one that taps into that kind of V.C. Andrews style of like gothic melodrama, I guess. So yeah, I really enjoyed the Blackstone Chronicles. And you kind of from the covers I've been flashing up as I've been talking about it for the 6 parts, you get the kind of vibe of it. It's definitely got a kind of 90s feel to it, but it was really, really fun. It's been a really 90s week actually, because this was 90s, Blackstone Chronicles towards the end of the 90s. But yeah, it was a fun read, and I do recommend it, and I'll definitely be reading more John Saul, as I say. He would definitely be, I think, a good pick for the Garb August Wasted Weekend, which is coming up next weekend. So I have actually allowed myself to buy another book. So when I started my new Read What You Own challenge, I said I would allow myself to buy books for events, and I've purely by chance come across a book which sounds perfect for Garb August. I'm not going to tell you what it is now, but I will be talking about that. Hopefully it will arrive during the week and I'll be able to read it next weekend, so I will talk about it next weekend. Anyway, that's what I've been reading. Currently reading nothing, because I finished the Blackstone Chronicles just before filming this video. So looking at my TBR, I'm not sure. I may go with Richard Lehman. I've got a Richard Lehman book I want to get read this month. I don't think it was officially on my TBR. It's for Kelsey from Slime and Slasher's Year of Lehman, but I do quite fancy a bit of Lehman, so probably that. And then I think I'm going to read for the Gothic Hearts reading challenge. I think I want to read this next, Bluebeard Castle by Annabella. So it looks like a lot of fun. So yeah, that's probably what I'll be reading over the weekend. I can't put the book back. So in terms of channel stuff then, so in the last week, you've had my announcement video for March Mystery Madness, which is a fantastic reading event. Really pleased to be a co-host of it this year. Like the first reading event I ever took part in on BookTube, so it feels wonderful to have been asked to co-host. Basically a month dedicated to reading mysteries, which is perfect for me because I love mysteries. I do wear a tuxedo or dinner suit and bow tie in that video, so if you haven't watched that and you like the idea of seeing me a bit smarter than normal, then do check that out. Also did a review of Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter, a book I didn't particularly enjoy, but it was an interesting book to review for that reason. I did a video with some recommendations for the Garb August Wasted Weekend that are kind of a bit more modern and a bit less problematic than some of the older than what some of the older trashy stuff is. I did my January wrap-up video, and I did a video about how I think we should disagree agreeably with each other a bit more about books we don't like. In the week ahead then, I've got a book haul video, which my first book haul since finishing the Read What You Own Challenge. So it has that Able Team book in it, but also has a load of books that people have very kindly sent me recently. So got that. I've got an unhaul video. I'm pretty sure it's the first time I've ever done an unhaul video on the channel. So a video where I talk about a big bag of books that I'm getting rid of. I will be doing a review of The Simple Plan as advertised, and also I think I'm going to do a video about this reading project I want to do starting this year. It will definitely won't finish this year, where I'm going to try and read all the books by Evan Hunter or Ed McBain, McBain being a pseudonym of Hunter's. So all the books by Evan Hunter that I haven't read yet. So that's what you can look forward to in the week ahead. Anyway, I will leave it there. Hope you all have lovely Saturdays and Sundays indeed. Hope you're doing something nice this weekend and not having to work. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.